Good afternoon, everyone. Our research proposal is the effect of sleep spindles during non-REM sleep on abstractedness. My name is Niyathi.
My name is
Iman.
My name is Neelish.
My name is Siddharth.
My name is Rose.
All right, we'll move on to the next slide, which is our research question. So our research question is, how does the magnitude of sleep spindles during non-rapid eye movement sleep, or NREM sleep, correlate to a 5 to 7-year-old's capability of learning and consolidating new memories that will then influence their abstractedness, which we define as creativity and imagination? We'll now go on to the background information and significance.
So the sleep cycle. Well, during sleep, the human body cycles through 2 stages: non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM sleep, and rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep. NREM is further divided into 3 stages: N1, which is sleep onset, N2, which is light sleep, and N3, which is deep sleep. N1 is characterized by 5% of the sleep cycles, the muscles are still tense, and the eyes move in a slow motion. Here we see on the EEG alpha waves from the wakeful state turning into theta waves that happen during meditation or just falling asleep. And N2, that is light sleep, which is 45% of the sleep cycle. This is where we see the sleep spindles where we're looking at on the EEG. And here heart rate begins to slow down. And then in N3, we see deep sleep, which is the deepest state of the sleep cycle. And here muscle tone and heart rate and pulse all decrease as the body begins to relax. Then finally, we reach REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, which is 25% of the sleep cycle. It is considered the least restful state of sleep. And the EEG shows that the beta waves are on the EEG, which show similarly to when we are awake. Here we are dreaming, and this is why we see a lot of eye movement. And here we see irregular muscle tonality, and we see irregular breathing.
So we want to look at how non-REM sleep and how sleep spindles and non-REM sleep impact abstractedness. Abstractedness is defined as creativity and imagination. Creativity is split into originality and functionality. Originality refers to how unique the ideas are, whereas functionality refers to the degree to which the idea works and is useful. Creativity has been known to be a result of both experience and genetics, but it's more credited to experience. Imagination is referred to as the ability to form a new mental image that is not present or identifiable, with the given information coming from the senses. Imagination is all about filling in the gaps between the patterns that are observed.
So now let's go to the connection between learning and memory and abstractedness. So what we know as of right now from previous research is that creativity helps increase learning in 2 major ways. The first is by motivating students to learn, where creativity helps inspire students to find different solutions and improve their learning process. But secondly, and much more importantly, it strengthens neural pathways to the hippocampus. According to our research, we see that in the research, the hippocampus, which is used for turning short-term memory into long-term memory, those pathways are strengthened. We also see that there may be a similar positive correlation in the opposite direction. Novel research currently shows that the episodic memory had a positive correlation with creativity. And we also see that from other sources, memory gives the tools that are needed to create these creative ideas. In this picture right here, we see that learning goes to idea generation, which goes to creativity, but we see that it starts with the learning, which is the basis, and then it narrows down all the way to creativity.
Okay, so why are we even doing this? Well, this research study aims to understand more about the sleep stages, and specifically sleep spindles in regulating processes such as creative visual thinking and strategic imagination. There is hope that in the future, this information can be used to influence sleep patterns, as well as revolutionize sleep therapy to ensure people get the best quality of sleep that best ameliorates their abilities in mental processes, functioning, and more. As of now, there's very limited information on what sleep spindles are, as well as the processes that govern them. Currently, there are also no reliable methods to influence sleep architectures, which are basically the structures and wave components of one's sleep. The ramifications of this study include a further understanding of what sleep is, as well as the optimal brain wave fluctuations that give an individual the best sleep and allow for the highest mental processing and creativity the next day. With this knowledge, there may be a chance that in the future, sleep could be engineered to create the prime version of a person and help them tap into their full creative potential. Okay, so what is our hypothesis? Our hypothesis is that it is predicted that if there are more sleep spindles of higher frequency, ranging from 13 to 18 hertz during non-rapid sleep eye movement, which occurs during the second stage of sleep, then children will have a higher level of abstractedness because research has already proven a strong correlation between the amount and frequency of sleep spindles to memory consolidation into long-term memory, effective maintenance rehearsal, and learning.
Okay, so now let's move on to the study design and methodology. We are testing our hypothesis on 5 to 7-year-olds who speak and can understand English. They must have no dietary concerns or physical restrictions and should be able to sleep for 9 to 10 hours every night without any problems. The children must also be accompanied by one of their parents and not have any issues with the EEG testing. The process we are going to use to get these participants are that by random selection, 2 elementary school students from every 50 states will be sent flyers about the experiment, and the parents will also receive an email as well as a paper copy through their child. If interested, parents can call or text the phone numbers listed on the flyer. The flyer we made has information about what our research is, the requirements for the participants, the schedule, why to join, and the contact information. From each school, 6 participants will be selected for the study to result in a total of 600 participants from all 50 states. 3 boys ages 5, 6, and 7, and 3 girls ages 5, 6, and 7. The participants who will later be selected will have to pay no travel expenses, as we will cover them all so that they can easily come to the camp in Topeka, Kansas without any troubles. Additionally, in the convenience of everyone, the camp will be hosted in Kansas as it is in the center of all the other states. Prior to the study, all staff will undergo training and establish clear guidelines on how to interact with the children. Participants will arrive for the trial on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. This will mainly be used for comfortably placing the EEG on the children. In case of any problems, the parents will also be taught how to reset and properly place the EEG. The participants will then engage in some games to help them fall asleep faster. They will go to bed at 9 p.m. and wake up at 7 a.m. every day, which will allow them to sleep around 9 to 10 hours and for the EEG to collect valuable data. Their first test, which is the Guilford Measure Test, will be taken at 9 a.m. daily until 9:30 in the testing center. At 1 p.m., they will be taken back to the testing center for their final test of the day, which will be the Remote Associates Test. They will receive an explanation of how to do the test, and in addition, there will be a test administrator for each child in the room who will read the words aloud. Every child's parent will also be present in the room. Everyone will have to wear casual clothes as to not frighten the children. In between test times and after testing times, the children will participate in sports, games, arts and crafts, and so much more so that they'll be tired and wearied out by 9 p.m. so the EEG can start collecting data faster. Additionally, the kids will also be given 3 meals a day, and each meal given to the children will be the same. At 9 p.m., the lights will go out and the EEG machine will be turned on to start collecting data. This will be the routine for the whole week until Saturday morning. On Saturday, they will wake up at 7 a.m. and finish breakfast by 8:30 a.m. and afterwards will be taken to the testing center so that the doctors can take off their EEGs. The only thing that will be different in their schedule throughout the entire week are the sports that they are going to take place in.
So what tests are we going to use to measure creativity? Well, we're going to use 2 tests. This first test is the Gopher Test. And this test assesses creativity in a child by focusing on their ability for divergent thinking. So the child will have 30 minutes to draw as many drawings as they can in 50 blank circles. This test will be measured by their fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration of their pictures drawn. The second test we'll be using, as seen on the right, is the Remote Associates Test. This test assesses creativity through the ability of the child to form associations. The child will have 25 minutes to finish each of the tests. They can take less time, but they cannot take more time than 25 minutes. There'll be 5 sets of questions, each with 3 stimulus words and pictures. The child will have to create a 4th word that associates with 3 of those stimulus words and the pictures. The assistant scientist in the room can read out the words 3 times and no more. This assessment will be based on how highly associative the word the child comes up is and the time it takes to take the test.
In order to identify the sleep spindles, we'll be using an electroencephalogram or EEG test. As stated, we'll start it during the night when the participants are going to sleep. And we see that by putting the electrodes, which are metal discs on wires, on the scalp and leaving it on for the night, we will be able to graphically see this on a computer program. As sleep spindles are identified by their high frequency and a high burst of that high frequency, we'll be able to find a correlation between the sleep spindles and the Gopher measure and remote associates test. That way we see what creativity is and that portion with the amount of sleep spindles and are able to make that connection.
So in the following, we will discuss possible limitations as well as ethical, legal, and social considerations. Let's start with the limitations. So the sample size of the study is very optimistically calculated. On the one hand, the aim is to enable the largest possible sample. On the other hand, such a large number of participants also requires a certain amount of planning and infrastructure, which may encounter limitations at various levels. To continue, child behavior cannot be predicted. It must be anticipated that there will be dropouts, and the actual number of participants should therefore be assumed lower. Humans are biopsychosocial beings who are subjected to constant influences that cannot be prevented in the examination context. With the help of randomization, an attempt can be made to evenly distribute known and unknown confounding factors to achieve the greatest possible objectivity. The study will only be conducted on children without disabilities who are not taking medication or have known mental or physical illnesses and are categorized in terms of a binary gender understanding. At this point, you could criticize the study's representativeness and the degree to which it is applicable in real life, since it does not take into account many factors such as realistic individual circumstances.
Okay, so there are a variety of social implications that result from this study. Children are the only ones being represented in this sample. So as a result, the correlation between the frequency and the quantity of the spindle waves and the level of abstractedness and creativity, it may only be applicable to younger children. The study may not be reliable when it comes to generalizing to a larger group of adults. Also, once sleep engineering becomes more practical, this information can be abused by members of the upper class. They could use it to create optimal versions of themselves with enhanced mental capabilities, leaving lower class and minority groups at a disadvantage. We must also get thoroughly reviewed by the IRB, the International Review Board, and the OHRP, the Office for Human Protection, for our research to get approved and validated, especially since we're running it on children. We must also get an FWEA, or federal-wide assurance, to get support on running these tests on human subjects. Also, the parents are the only ones that can give consent to the child participation, and they have the final say. The information that is collected from the children should not be disclosed or abused.
We made several ethical considerations when designing our study. Through both an email and paper flyer, we are making sure that parents are fully informed regarding the study and can thus consent to have their children participate. We can say with certainty that our study is non-invasive to our participants, as our results are measured through small tests and activities. Being an observational study with no treatment, there is also minimal concern about unintended or harmful side effects on the children. One potential negative concern is the fact that this week-long study requires a sudden change in the children's daily routine as they are out of school for a whole week and thus miss out on social interactions and learning with peers. Another negative ethical consideration of our study, as mentioned when discussing limitations, is the lack of diversity and representation in our sample. In order to avoid any confounding variables, we asked specifically for participants who have no mental or physical conditions and are on no sort of medication, which means that our results can only truly be applicable to healthy individuals. We are uncertain as to whether a procedure might pose added risks to disabled individuals, and at this time, we are unfamiliar with the modifications we would have to make to include disabled people in our study. However, this unfortunately leads to the exclusion of people with disabilities, people with physical and mental norm deviations, as well as non binary individuals. Based on the success of this study, we might do a follow up study focused on the groups of children excluded from the original in order to counteract this structural discrimination. Conducting these follow up studies would require further discussion with specialized professionals to modify the study accordingly.
Thank you so much for your time and attention, and we hope you enjoyed our research proposal.
Well, so first of all, I got to say, I know Sherry's going to touch on this part, but I love the graphics. I loved the dark blue background and the fact that I actually started to feel sleepy at first. It really, it matched the theme of your presentation, and I thought that was great. I thought you all presented very professionally. You all spoke very clearly. I loved how you defined your terms and your depictions matched the definitions. So when I first read the title of the presentation, I thought, I'm not sure I know what they're talking about. And 30 seconds later, I did. So thank you for really laying that out very clearly for me. I would be interested to know, you mentioned, of course, we're only doing this study for children. And I think there's a general perception, don't know if it's been proven or not, that as we grow older, as we mature into adulthood, we lose creativity, we lose some of that imagination. We also lose sleep. Is there a connection there? Do we lose some of that creativity because as adults we have to stick to schedules and we have jobs and we have mortgages and kids and all of that stuff to worry about? Or is it because we're getting less sleep? I think it would be a really interesting way to expand that study at some point going forward. I also applaud the, as Morgan mentioned, the incredible level of detail, the flyer that you put together, the schedule that you laid out. My only concern would be the costs that would be involved in supporting a study, not only of that many children, but each one is bringing a parent, and of course you're going to have to staff all of that. So you're looking for some pretty significant grants to fund this. So all of that, though, I thought this was just a fascinating subject, and I just applaud all of you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Mr. DeFranco, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll echo everything that's been said. I mean, the attention to detail, it's gone all the way down to what clothes people wear, which is something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration when they do these studies, but it's important for children. I have a question for the presenters that I guess anyone could answer. So 5 to 7 year old cohort, that's really young. And I was wondering if there was something in the literature that supported that young of a cohort. If I don't know if they can respond.
Yeah, if one of our interns here wants to turn on your camera again, and then provide an answer on behalf of your group, and then we can return to feedback afterwards.
I don't believe we looked at specific literature to support like 5 to 7 specifically. We just chose that age because like we were like aware that this is like at this age like they have like really high levels of creativity and imagination. So we wanted that's kind of like our main reasoning.
Also, additionally, we kind of chose 5 to 7 year olds because of the amount of time that they sleep, because we want the EEG to gather like a good amount of data. And in order for that, the kids have to go through like every phase and like spend like a good 2-3 hours in the phase. So if they sleep like 9 to 10 hours, mostly only 5 to 7 year olds sleep that much. As you get into middle school or high school, you start sleeping way less. So we chose 5 to 7 year olds for the amount of time that they sleep.
Yeah, thanks for the answers. That's all I've got. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely as you get older, you're going to sleep less, like Eleanor said previously. So great job.
All right, perfect. And now to Miss Lovelace, would you like to comment?
So I'm impressed. Beautiful slide design. Your graphics were fabulous. I really liked your choice of layout and imagery. My only minor suggestion really would be to increase the font size just a little bit when using a dark background. to help with readability. But otherwise, I appreciate we're selective with how much text you put on the slide. The information you put on the slide supported your points and your ideas, while you were still able to get some reference citations in there. So you nodded to your sources, which was fantastic. Everything just really helped to support the points without being distracting. So very well done. Your transitions were well timed. Everybody was smooth. You exuded confidence and spoke really clearly and succinctly. So well done.
Perfect. Thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Giordano.
Let me just mirror what everyone else has said, not least of which what Morgan has said, what Joe and Eleanor, with regard to the level of detail. The level of detail was perfect. And what I mean by that is if you are actually translating this into a proposal presentation before a group of funders, or if you want to translate this into a written proposal, it was there. That's the level of granularity, that's the level of focus necessary, particularly as regards to the safeguards for vulnerable populations, which I really want to commend you jumping on board that particular aspect of the study, recognizing when working with children as a declared vulnerable population, there are certain safeguards and caveats, and you address those not only in terms of the ethical issues that would go along with, for example, the HHS common rule, but perhaps more deeply with regard to the regulations and necessary policies and guidelines that would need to be in place to ensure not only the probity and safety of the individuals while they were in the study, but perhaps thereafter. And so I was very, very deeply impressed by that, because what you've done is you've taken your content, and that content has then been expanded into the social context, both explicitly, what does this mean for creativity, and implicitly in terms of what would be perhaps manifestations, effects, or influences of a study like this, both on the participants and perhaps more broadly. So overall, very, very well done. Content was excellent. The contextualization both to the science and to the social issues, outstanding. And so a hearty round of applause to each and all. Good job, team.